From Eyewitness News, this is Newsmakers.
UHIP has become a four-letter word in Rhode Island, literally and figuratively. Now a federal judge has tapped a prominent local attorney to seek solutions for the new benefit system's problems. On the first half of Newsmakers, we get the latest on the turnaround effort from UHIP Special Master Deming Sherman. Then, make it stop. What is going on with this maddening weather pattern we're in? Our guests this week on the second half of Newsmakers, don't blame the messengers, pinpoint weather team meteorologists Tony Petracca and Pete Mangione. Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. Tony and Pete will join us on the second half. With me on the program right now from WPRI.com, reporter Ted Nesi. Deming Sherman, UHIP Special Master, thank you for joining us on the program. It's really good to have you.
Pleasure to be here.
So before we dive into the discussion with Deming, a little unconventional, and I want to turn to you, Ted, first. You've been covering this UHIP for 3 years. If you could just briefly, I know it's a lot to ask after covering it for 3 years, just remind everybody what UHIP is and what's happened.
Yeah, and I'll let Deming correct me after if I get any of it wrong from what he's learned. But so the state, like any organization, has computer systems to run the various programs they offer. And the programs that run social services, food stamps, Medicaid, et cetera, date back to the 1980s, the older, or they as of a few years ago they did. So they said we have to upgrade them. Then this federal money became available through Obamacare to get a much higher federal match to do the upgrade. So the state said, you know what, let's just do a big upgrade, take advantage of the extra federal dollars. We're going to rebuild all the programs for all these. And it was called UHIP, the Unified Health Infrastructure Project. Well, over a couple of years, the cost and the scope ballooned quite a bit. The cost now is projected to be nearly $500 million through the next few years. And when it launched, when the part Deming's working on launched in September 2016, as people know, it was a fiasco, in a lot of ways.
Yep.
There were lines and things not working and everything, and it was very difficult to get any sense of where things were going. The governor ended up firing some people over it and all. And it's that. Some of those problems have lingered on, which is why the ACLU filed suit eventually over the food stamp program, which led to Deming Sherman's appointment as special master.
So U.S. District Court Chief Judge William Smith appointed you as special master. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, everything that you're looking at, all the details there, as Ted said, the lawsuit was filed. It focuses on SNAP, really, which is the food stamp part of the benefits program. Can you give us a sense of where that stands right now? Are we out of the woods when it comes to SNAP?
We're getting out of the woods, but no, we're not out of the woods yet. And just to give a little more context to what you just said, Ted, when UHIP was originally envisioned, it was to be a health exchange program for people purchasing insurance under Obamacare. And then it got expanded a year or two later to include 5 additional social service programs, which included SNAP, but Medicare, welfare, and a couple of others. And that part of the system is called Rhode Island Bridges. That's the original UHIP project for the healthcare infrastructure went online before Rhode Island Bridges. Rhode Island Bridges went online after a delay in September of 2016. And as
the first portion was Health Source, right?
Yes,
the health
that's correct,
exchange.
Exactly. So it went online in September of 2016, and 2 months later, after lots of problems developed, the ACLU filed a lawsuit to require the state to live up to its requirements under the federal statutes for the processing of applications for food stamps. The acronym is SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And that suit was filed at the very end of 2016. In about February 2017, the state and the ACLU and their partner in New York called the National Center for Law and Economic Justice, which is a 501c3 foundation that focuses on issues relating to low-income people. The state and the ACLU and the National Center entered into a consent decree. And that consent decree required over time the state to process applications for food stamps increasing the percentage slowly until they got to 96%. In other words, that standard for timeliness would be 96% of applications for food stamps would be processed in a timely fashion.
So where are we now?
So where are we now? As of the last 2 months, I'll give you the averages. Let me back up 1 second. There are two types of applications. There's what's called an expedited application, which has to be processed in 7 days. And that's for an application by people who are very desperate and need food on the table sooner rather than later. And then the second type of application is what's called a non-expedited application. And the state has 30 days to process that. So the state keeps track of both of the timeliness of both the SNAP expedited applications and the non-expedited applications. So as of last month, and just averaging February and March together, the state is at approximately 87% timeliness for expedited applications and approximately 81% timeliness for non-expedited. That compares with, for example, last July, where the figures were respectively about 60% and 40%.
So there's been progress.
So there's been significant progress. So, so now the objective is to get to the 96%, and that's going to take a combination of two things. It's going to take fixes to the system that Deloitte is working on, and
when you say system, you mean computer system?
The computer system, the program itself, in a variety of ways. And I can get into the details, but that would take forever.
Yeah, that's okay.
But generally speaking, there have been defects in the system that are slowly being corrected. So that's one element. And the other element is the staffing element for DHS. And DHS has been pretty good. They've hired additional staff. They've hired 40 new people in the last 2 months. They're working on a plan for the call center, which has been a real sore spot, and which was the subject of my order a couple of weeks ago. It's just unacceptable for someone to have to wait 2 hours or more to have their inquiry responded to. It's just not right. And everybody agrees. So the question is, what do you do about it? And so the state has come up with a plan which includes the hiring of an outside vendor for a period of time to help with the call volume. So that's one step that the state is taking. They've hired, as I indicated, they've hired additional people to work on SNAP applications. They've taken a number of different steps in the past couple of months. Another one, for example, one of the problems that we found was long lines at offices of DHS in both the city and in the regional offices. So Courtney Hawkins, who is the director of DHS and who I think is doing a very conscientious job, reconfigured the Providence office to set up a special line and a special processing area just for SNAP applications. So when someone comes in and they need to file a SNAP application, they get sent to a special office, and that they get processed there. And so
is that helping with the lines right now?
Yes, it is. It is. Has it eliminated lines? No. And the lines will vary with the time of month.
I think, Deming, one thing for people, as we zoom out a little in the conversation here, they feel like they've been told multiple times that, light at the end of the tunnel, we're making progress, we've turned the corner, and then more problems pop up, or they hear about an order like this one you're putting in on the call center. I mean, are we close to fixing this? Do you see that we're now on the path where this is fixed, I don't know, by the end of the year or something?
My goal is to be in compliance by June 30.
Do you think that's doable?
I do.
Why?
Because, well, for two reasons. Number one, I think Deloitte is being very responsive to fix the program problems, the software problems. They want this fixed just as quickly as anybody else. They have an economic interest in getting it fixed. There's a whole separate discussion going on between the state and Deloitte about who pays for the problems. I'm not involved in that. So that's I have been meeting on a regular basis with Deloitte, and I think that the schedule that they've laid out and the fixes that they have been working on will work. And then secondly, I think DHS has been doing everything possible to improve the timeliness, given the fact that the computer system still has some problems. All the problems are less but it's still not working quite the way it should work. So they've done through extra hiring, through overtime. They're trying to get the timeliness figures up to what the consent decree requires, and I think they're doing what they can do under the circumstances.
You touched on the money issue there briefly, but I do want to ask you about it. You know, the governor has successfully recouped millions of dollars from Deloitte. As you pointed out, there's still going to be some talk about paying the bills down the road. The state will still have to pay Deloitte. If the governor comes to you and says, Deming, should we continue to pay Deloitte here on out? What would you say?
Well, I would say that's really not my call. My purpose is to oversee the state coming into compliance with the consent decree that it entered into about a year ago. That's my duty and my responsibility. I am not involved in discussions between the state and Deloitte over who pays for what. That's just not in my bailiwick. Deloitte isn't even a party to this consent decree.
Yeah,
the parties are the state and the ACLU and the National Center. So I've been working with Deloitte. I have every reason to think that the next kind of significant upgrade, which is due on May 19, I have reasonable confidence that that will work, assuming that everybody's trained properly on the system and that it's properly tested before it goes live. I've made it clear to Deloitte that this upgrade should not be implemented until such time as it's ready technologically and people are trained.
Do you think Rhode Islanders are right to be frustrated about how all this went?
Yes, I do.
Yeah?
The fact that I was appointed is evidence of that. But I like to think that we are making progress. I have been filing monthly reports with the court saying, here's what I've been doing, here are my objectives, here are my goals, so that anyone who wants to see what's going on is able to do so. And I believe in transparency. Everything I've done has been transparent between the parties. I have reported orally to the court as well as through written reports. And can I guarantee that this will be fixed by June 30? No, I can't guarantee that. Nobody can. Do I have a reasonable expectation that we will meet that standard required by June 30? I do have a reasonable expectation. I will be assuming we do meet it or come within hailing distance. I expect that I will continue on as the so-called special master for another period of time to make sure that the state maintains the level of timeliness that it's required to. It's not enough just to get there in 1 month.
We're almost at a break, but just briefly, do you think, is there a need for a special master for the rest of UHIP?
That's a good question. I'm not sure I can answer that because I really haven't looked into the other programs. That's been kind of beyond my responsibility. I will say that I think if we can especially fix the technology with respect to the SNAP program, it will have a positive impact on all of the other programs. My sense is that while there are other problems with the other programs, they're not as severe or haven't been as severe as with food stamps.
Attorney Deming Sherman, thank you very much for joining us on the program. When we come back, we're going to talk about what's been on your mind all month, and that is the weather. We have Chief Meteorologist Tony Petranca and Meteorologist Pete Mangione. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. To my left, WPRI.com reporter Ted Nesi. We have Chief Meteorologist Tony Petranca and Meteorologist Pete Mangione. So, guys, how's things?
Great. How was your week?
Yeah, great. It's been quiet. It's certainly a learning experience. I mean, Pete and I have been doing this a long, long time, and every now and then you will run into something like this, unfortunately.
Well, let's talk about that storm. So we had the nor'easter, or the storm earlier this week. The snow totals weren't realized at the end of the day. Why was this such a challenging storm to forecast?
You would agree that really every storm has its challenges, is very unique. I mean, there are so many moving parts in the atmosphere that come together to create a storm, and they all have to, come together in sync and right on top of the smallest state in the country. And if one of those pieces is either missing or it's in the wrong spot, it throws everything off. I think the simple explanation with this last storm, just tracking a little further offshore by, what do you think, Pete, maybe 50 to maybe 75 miles, which seems like a lot, but it's really very little, because in this particular storm, Long Island, New York, the Twin Forks of Long Island, over 12 inches of snow. So as the crow flies, that's only 50 miles from our viewing area. So that's the near miss that we were dealing with, and just those heavy bands of snow not quite coming in during the nighttime hours. You know, the daytime forecast panned out as expected.
The timing was right.
Well, we didn't really think that travel was going to be an issue during the day. Our concern was more during the evening and at night, and not so much during the day. In fact, we stressed how the morning commute would be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, were you surprised, Pete, when schools started getting canceled?
Yeah, I was. Simply because I think, and we've been saying, and not just us, the other TV stations and basically the other forecasts had been saying, you know, this isn't really going to stick until at night, or at least late in the afternoon, so it shouldn't really be a big deal traveling during the day. That being said, I still realize it's a tough decision when maybe they see that part of the forecast. Okay, it's going to start to stick in the evening. Maybe they say, okay, well, if it's off by maybe an hour or two, then the concern is maybe kids are coming home when it's not so good outside. But overall, I was surprised by that decision.
You wrote a blog post, I think, partway through the week. I was interested in how you guys were analyzing both the forecast and then how it changed. And you said March is harder. You know, to all of us who are just laymen watching you guys, we think, well, it's the weather. It's the
I'm
weather.
glad you brought this up.
Whether it's August or February, whatever. And you said no, March can be uniquely challenging compared to other parts of the winter. Talk about why.
Well, basically, it's because March tends to be warmer. So you have a higher sun angle. So if you have snow that's falling during the day, it's tough for it to accumulate. Now, if you get a really powerful storm and the snow is really thumping, then yes, it can accumulate, but you really need it to be coming down hard. And Tony, I think I remember my first year here, you kind of maybe sent me an email one time when I was forecasting a storm. You said, hey, be careful of the snow that falls during the day during March.
Did you start the email with "Listen, kid"?
Yeah. Hey, you listen up,
Son.
We were in black and white then.
Daylight snow from mid-March to early April really has to come down hard to stick to the pavement. And I know you guys seen this many times where it snows and it's sticking to the grass, it's sticking to your car, it's sticking to the patio deck, but it's melting on the pavement. And a lot of times in March, daylight snow really won't stick on the pavement unless it's coming down very hard. So we felt as though the pavement during the daytime with this storm would just be wet and not so much wet and icy until the setting of the sun and then the cooling of the temperatures. Now, with that said, the other part of the storm, the nighttime part of the storm, clearly didn't materialize, and clearly not as much snow as anticipated. But what we were trying to stress with the daytime was that the commute was going to be okay, even into the early afternoon, other than wet roads not really getting tricky until towards the late afternoon or early evening.
So before, I asked you guys to come on to Newsmakers before that storm even hit.
Yes.
So,
and we tried to back out.
You did. And I would have called you. We would have had 2 empty seats here.
Empty chair. You
That's
like
right.
it to be. Yeah.
That's right. We won't treat you any different. But let's look at March as a whole and go back at what it just feels like to us, what a busy month it has been weather-wise. Walk us through, Tony, recap the month, what we've had, and why. Why has it felt like such a busy month?
Well, we've been calling it March Madness.
Yes.
And really, there's been 4 nor'easters. Of course, 3 were high impact. Of course, the last one, the miss. But this goes back to March 2nd.
Yep.
And that was the one that really had a lot of strong wind and extremely high power outages, over about 150,000. The next storm on the 7th. Was another significant storm. It had it was the storm that was being described as why the snowflakes so large. It was a very wet, heavy, like cement snow, and that created a lot of weight on tree limbs and power lines. You get your power outages there. The third one, really near blizzard conditions, and it's not often you get 1 to 2 feet of snow, but that snow producing huge amounts of snow and a lot of problems as well. And then March 21st, I really just choose to forget that one. The close call, but we were talking about, our team was talking about in late February how the pattern was going to change. When we refer to the pattern, we're referring to the jet stream, and that caught Pete's eye to the point where you had blogged about how, how the jet stream was shaping up in this particular pattern that we call the North Atlantic oscillation.
That's right.
So we're throwing around
the
fancy
NAO.
So we're throwing around fancy words, but all we're really telling folks is that it's the steering winds or the jet streams in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So I want to show this graphic. You created this graphic a couple.
This is a jet stream graphic that you were talking, and this is probably why we feel like we're in some sort of a bowling alley of storms right now. So Pete, walk us through this.
First of all, that's a great zoom, don't you think?
It's beautiful.
Really well done. Well done.
So for much of March, what you've had is that what we call a blocking high pressure pattern up near Greenland, and that creates that dip in the jet stream to be over our area for a good part of the month. That's where storms like to go. It also allows cold air to come in.
Okay.
And it acts kind of like a traffic jam. So as long as that high is sitting up there, it's hard to move the dip in the jet stream, and that means it's hard to get rid of the stormy pattern. And so far
we're like
March,
a highway for a storm right now.
Yes.
Exactly, and that big blue H, every time a storm develops, that blue H, that high pressure, slows it down. So it stays near the coastline. It has the opportunity to intensify. They tend to be slow movers and very high impact. So when we see that kind of a roller coaster pattern in the jet stream, it's a red flag to us that March is going to be a busy month, and in fact, it has been.
Has that jet stream already started moving and changing? Or are we still in that? Are we on the L side of the jet stream still?
We're seeing signs of it breaking down, but not until probably until early April.
So you got to watch their forecast.
Get out right now.
Yeah, we don't want to hear anymore.
I didn't want to say that. It looked like longer term in April it may go back into that kind of stormy pattern.
Tony, I was saying to Tim, we just did a political poll. We were talking about that on this show, and we always have to talk about the margin of error, and that we're not saying that this is exactly where everything is. We're giving you a sense of it as best we can. There's some truth out of a forecast, right? You're not saying this is like the most likely scenario, but there's always room for change and shift.
Yeah. And the reason why we give forecast, like initially the forecast range for snow will be very broad when it's several days out, and as we get closer and closer, we try to narrow down that range. We want to narrow down the timing, when it arrives, when it will leave, when the worst of the storm will occur. We try to nail down that timing and the range of snow and start to think about what locations will have more or less. We start talking about probabilities, like this is a high probability here, low probability here, and we give other scenarios. This is what we're calling for. However, it can do this and it can do that. That's on the window of opportunity, but this is what we're going with. So if it deviates left or right, the viewer understands that they were talking about these other possible scenarios. And this is the reason why maybe something has changed last minute.
Do you think we've all become spoiled? My wife was talking to her dad, who tells Blizzard of '78 stories, and everyone always says part of why that was so epically bad was because we didn't know super far in advance how serious it would be. It seems like the technology has gotten so good, and you guys have such an ability to tell us now what's happening that people they don't expect a storm like this where it goes a little off.
Right. I mean, that is so true. I think as the technology and the forecasting has improved, the expectations have grown.
Exactly.
So now if you say it's going to start snowing at 3 p.m. and it starts snowing at 2:15, people will say, oh, this is terrible. This is way off. Whereas, maybe 10, 20 years ago, if you were within a few hours, it was considered pretty good.
And the problem with the blizzard of '78 was that we were supposed to wake up to snow on the ground, and we all woke up, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, nothing on the ground. So we all go to work, we all go to school. It starts to snow at 10. It's out of control by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So talk about not just getting the amount of snow correct, but you want to nail down the timing. Take the blizzard of '78 and have it strike 3 a.m. on a Saturday. It's a completely different storm. So timing is everything, and not just the amounts of precipitation.
On the other end of this studio is the Pinpoint Weather Center, where you guys, we walk in here and we see you guys behind those computers, and you are all working very hard. We see it every single day. Do you guys ever disagree with each other on where you think a storm, might land?
Because we never do.
That's right.
We're always in lockstep.
I mean, you did have me in a headlock that one time, right?
But we're constantly consulting each other. So, like, an example would be as I finish my shift, and then either Michelle, Pete, or TJ is starting the next shift. We'll call each other. We'll talk to each other. Say, hey, listen, this is what I was thinking, and then we'll say, well, new information is coming in, and we're suggesting that maybe X, Y, Z. And I'm like, okay, well, let's change this a little bit. So we try to stay on the same page. That there's always communication with the four of us, TJ, Pete, and Michelle, and it's not just Pete decided on doing this, and then when I come in, it's like.
Right, because you don't want our forecast to change based on who's working.
So we work off of each other's forecast and thinking, and we stay in communication. And of course, with the internet, I mean, we analyze the same information at home. I mean, and we all do the same thing. We wake up in the morning, and we're eating breakfast at the table, and we have the iPad, and we're looking at it. So it's 24.
Always working. I love it.
It's like 24/7, not just here in the forecast center, but even at home as well. We're constantly, especially when storms are coming, and a lot of long hours.
And when there's two of us together, which we do a lot during storms, it's not necessarily a disagreement. Sometimes it's, you know, the person might be busy with 8 million other things. If Michelle's on the air, Tony's on the air, TJ's on the air, I'll be behind the scenes catching things that maybe they just don't have time to look at because there's just so much going on during a storm.
All right, so we have 30 seconds left here, Tony. We're taping on a Friday. A lot of people watch this on a weekend. Big weekend for Special Olympics. Are you doing the plunge?
I'm jumping in the ocean.
What's the water temp going to be?
43, and there will be, believe it or not, we're talking about this weather pattern, another ocean storm. This one is supposed to be a miss, but it's going to be close enough on Sunday to make it windy, cloudy, cold, and some floods.
Do you see this as penance for your forecast this week?
It actually stings. But myself, Mike Montecavo, and Yanni Caracas jumping in.
Tony Petrarca, Pete Mangione, thanks for joining us. For Ted Nesi, I'm Tim White. We'll see you next week on Newsmakers.